Hello, everybody. It's Usha Chudasama. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? It's a really lovely evening. We're going a little bit later than usual. And what I'm going to be talking about today is the second P of my happy model. Let me just show you. So I've already spoken about the healthy brain, attention and awareness, purposefully communicating, and today I'm talking about positive emotions. And so if you didn't know who I am, I'm Usha Chudasama, the author of this book, Your Happy Child, and I'm going to actually read some bits from this today. I'm also a speaker and a child and adult psychotherapist, and I'm passionate about helping parents to empower their children and heal their own inner child through the experience of parenthood. So first question is, what is emotional literacy? Actually, go back slightly. Emotions, positive emotions, is all about the different is all about the emotions that we have, even the negative, even the ones that are considered negative, like the sadness and the anger and the jealousy and so on. The reason being is that these emotions are also a part of your makeup. So rather than reject those parts of us, it's about actually saying that they are part of us, and when we notice them, we can feel them and we can express ourselves, and that is what emotional literacy is all about. So if I was to give you a definition, I could say emotional literacy involves having self-awareness and recognition of one's own feelings and knowing how to manage them, such as the ability to stay calm when angered or to reassure oneself when in doubt. Yeah, sometimes, you can get yourself into situations and the best thing to do is just to be quiet, because everybody else in that space might be not in the right space to actually hear what you've got to say. So that takes a lot of courage and guts to actually do that, because there's, sometimes, children feel anger and they really don't know how to manage that. And sometimes, sometimes I ask children when I'm working with them, how do you feel right now? And it goes from calm to anger. There's no in between words like confused or uncomfortable or frustrated or all of the in between words. It goes from naught. It's almost like it goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour. Thank you so much to everyone that's joining in. Let's see, Kelly, Carol, Trace, hello, John, hello, Trey, Marsha, Casper, so many people today. Thank you so much for joining. It looks like an evening time is much, much better for everybody. I might do it at 6 o'clock again. Okay, so what I'm saying is that emotional literacy, the way that Susie Orbach describes it, she's a psychotherapist, psychoanalyst, and she says it beautifully. Emotional literacy means being able to recognize what you are feeling so that it doesn't interfere with your thinking. Now, to get to that level, there are so many tiny little steps that we've got to take in terms of helping our children to build that emotional literacy. Because, when children are helped to build that emotional vocabulary, it helps them to express how they're feeling effectively, so that they can actually move through that feeling and let it go. Otherwise, what tends to happen is that they repress it, and they creates resentment, especially when the other person isn't there to acknowledge it or to see it or to acknowledge their part in it as well. So if I was to give you an example of a child I worked with one time, he's 10 years old, and actually he's 10 years old, but one of 10 in a family. So it's a huge family, and it's almost like he gets lost in all of that. So he said that when I come home, all I used to do was mess about and not do my homework and run around and cause a lot of aggro for his mum. Aya, hello Kaki, and hi Kelly, thanks for joining. That's what he used to do. But then after coming on this course, right, the happy workshop, he said, I now go home and I think. And he said, when I think, I've got more space in my mind to actually work out what I need to do and how to say it. So, you know, having that special time, having time to listen to your child so that they can express themselves, it gives them a sense of security, and they don't feel so overwhelmed when they feel acknowledged. So I think that emotional literacy is a very, very important thing to build, because it builds onto the emotional intelligence. And I think that that's what the 10-year-old was trying to say, is that he actually has time and space to think, and that taps into other creative ways that he can manage his life. And he said that, well, actually his teachers actually said that after doing that, he was able to be more calm and really focus in on his work, and his concentration improved as a result. And during class time, he was able to put his hand up and be articulate. So he started to use words that he never would have used in comprehension papers or stories and things like that. So hi Phil, thanks for joining. We're talking about why it's so important to build emotional literacy with our children. And that young 10-year-old actually, you know what? His testimonial is on here. And he said, the healing feeling is a good place to come because you can change to a different person. I now think about stuff. That was his testimonial. Anyway, I'm going to read a little bit out of my book here, because it's on page 128, and it says here, which I've written, psychological studies into behavioral disorders, learning difficulties, and other aspects of normal development have shown that having emotional literacy is vital in promoting happiness and self-satisfaction, and is finally changing the way we educate our children. And I see that happening more and more in schools that I go to. When children have the ability to understand and express feelings, it improves their self-esteem. Now, one game that I love to play with the children that come to the group workshop, and actually the game is written up in the book as well. It's called the I am game. So what you do is you take turns and you just finish off the sentence of I am. So I am helpful, I am wonderful, I am magnificent. And you get the children to come up with their own words. At first you'll find, wow, loads of people joining today. Hi, Jackie and Mervyn. Wow, thanks for joining. And Sarah, great to see you here. So the game I am, I mean, we could play. Why don't we play now? So finish off the sentence of I am. So those of you who are on here live, finish off that sentence. When I'm saying, when I'm playing with the kids, I say, I am wonderful. I am, and then, hey, Mervyn, play with me. So come up with a positive word that describes you. So I am resourceful, I am awesome, I am clever. Thank you for playing along. That helps me as well. I am magnificent, I am beautiful, I am lovely. All of those words. And after a while, you know, you find that children remember that when we are saying negative things, they actually live up to those labels. So if we say, oh, you're naughty girl, you're naughty boy, not that I do that obviously, but you know, if kids get that negative message, then they live up to that expectation. But thank you, I am love, I love that one. And when children play that game, and they come up with a positive words to describe who they are, they actually live up to that label. Or if they don't, if they are not there yet, their brain actually finds a way to connect with that. And this is so important, and this is like the foundation, basic level of helping children to build on their emotional literacy. I was just going to read a little bit here about separating feelings. Why feelings interfere with thinking. Now, I'm reading a little bit out of this book, which is on page 131 now. So human philosophy likes to separate thinking from feeling, and they're not really separate at all. Every thought has a feeling attached to it. So if we're frightened or angry or confused, it's going to affect the way we think, and vice versa. In here, I have drawn a little diagram. Basically, it's a triangle. So every thought, if you imagine the triangle like that, you know, the triangle like this, the top bit is the thought, and that leads to the feeling, and that affects how we behave. So by changing the way we think about things, that helps us to feel different, and it helps us to behave and find a new action to the thinking, and that triangle pattern actually keeps continuing. So when we teach children these positive words, these positive games, it helps them to think more positively, and it changes their internal feelings, which then leads to more positive action. So I think that emotional literacy, like I said, you know, is being able to recognize what you're feeling so that it doesn't interfere with the thinking, and it brings the unconscious part of our depths into awareness. And that's why I love playing that game, and that is such a foundational game. And you know what, I play that over the course of the course I run, and by week 1 it's like, I am nice, I am a good footballer. But then by the end of the 10th week, they have developed so much vocabulary and confidence in themselves that they say things, I am marvelous, I am exciting, I am playful, and so on, so on, so on. Oh my gosh. And then we go on to use those as affirmation cards, and they take them in their pocket, or they put them in their lunchbox, just as a reminder that that's how awesome they are. Mervyn says, yes. Oh, hi, Miriam and Alison. Thanks for joining. And Mervyn says, yes, adults themselves are emotionally illiterate. They are unable to guide themselves, which makes it harder for them to guide their offspring. Mervyn, that is the point, exactly the point. Because I think that, I mean, from my perspective, I never grew up with all of the information that I have in this book. And so many people have said, you know, the school that I work in at the moment, the special needs coordinator herself said, I wish I had something like this when I joined, because Anand, hello. Oh my goodness, I'm going to contact you and your brother soon, because I want to talk to you about this book and how we can connect. So what I was saying was, you're right, adults they're not totally emotionally literate. So, you know, how, and that's why I'm saying there's no blame here. So that how can we teach something if we have never had it? Because thinking and feeling, definitely, you're right, Mervyn, that they are definitely everything. And once you change the way you think about something, it affects how you feel about it, and that affects the behavior. And you're right, you know, and by doing this workshop with parents and children, you can see that the parent is actually working with the child. Here I'm teaching them massage skills, but in doing the massage skills, I'm helping the parent to speak, you know, to speak in a way that's respectful, and the child to you know, to accept that as well, and then they swap over. So the parent going through the course actually learns to be emotionally literate themselves, and they don't realize they're doing it actually, and that's the sneaky bit. So yes, hello Marsha, thank you so much for joining. A real good example of a positive parent who actually follows what I do anyway. Thanks for joining. And hi Sylvia, oh my goodness. Today we're talking about why should we teach our children about emotional literacy. I've been reading up about this from my book, and one of the things Mervyn just mentioned was about love. I am love. And you know what, when we show our love to our children, actually that is the key to their emotional regulation. Helping them to understand the literacy actually helps them then to regulate their emotions internally. I'm going to read a little bit here. So Alan Shaw said that in the first 2 years of a baby's life, they rely on a strong bond with their mothers for a healthy brain development. And emotional regulation describes someone's ability to respond to environmental stimuli with a range of emotions in a controlled manner. In other words, emotional regulation is the ability to gauge the appropriate level and range of emotional response to a given situation. So in other words, what we're saying is that once we give our kids the emotional vocabulary to describe how they're feeling inside, they can use those words to then describe how they're feeling to someone else and then regulate. I mean, I remember when I first came to this country, I remember feeling so frustrated because it was such a culture shock at the age of 7. I'm talking about a 7-year-old. And I really didn't, well, first of all, I couldn't even speak English, and then I didn't even understand what was going on inside my body. It was a completely new experience, completely new concept, nobody to talk to. So that became quite frustrating. And even the word frustrating wasn't even in my concept, it wasn't even in my vocabulary. So, it's like a child who doesn't have the emotional literacy is constantly under fight and flight mode. So the only way that they can the only way that they can show how they're feeling is through their behavior. And a lot of times when I'm working with kids, it's because the way they show their behavior is through aggression, because they don't know how else to be. I mean, young babies will cry when they need something. Older kids will argue, fight, they will show it in a different way, or they will regress and they will go all quiet and not Mervyn's saying, you mentioned an important word. Oh, thanks for reading my book, Marsha. You mentioned an important word, Usha, judgment. I say what I say observationally, not judgmentally. Absolutely. And I agree with you there, Mervyn. It's so important to just observe what you are seeing rather than say, okay, so for example, you're watching a child playing, you're watching your child playing, maybe Lego. Okay, so I see that you're putting the blue one on top of the red one, and now I see you getting that one. Oh, you're breaking it up. That is observationally. Whereas to do it judgmentally would be, oh, a red one. Oh, okay, why are you getting the blue one? Why don't you put another red one on? And then we can make a house. So you're actually showing your child that their creativity is not accepted by you. So then the child will internalize that as, oh, this isn't good enough. So then what happens is that they lack the motivation to do anything different because mummy won't be happy with that. Hello, so many people joining. Rashida, Preeti, hello. Ashit, hi, how are you? I hope that I'm sorry, we're kind of wrapping up actually, and we've been talking today about why we should teach our children about emotional literacy. And basically, I mean, the basic definition of that is so that so that we can separate out our feeling, and so that it doesn't interfere with our thinking. Basically, that is what emotional literacy is about, and it's so important for kids because it helps them to really express where they're coming from, how they're feeling, and it helps to raise their self-esteem. Yeah, I've got, yeah, okay, Marsha, you've got to correct your daughter's dad for doing that. Okay, yeah, and Mervyn, thank you so much for playing with me today, and Lena as well. Thanks so much for joining and playing with me. And what I wanted to say is that today what we've been talking about is the P, the second P from my happy model. So I've already had Facebook Lives or talking about the oh, I can't even point to it, HAP. So if you haven't seen them, go back and have a look, because I've explained what they mean. And next week, I think on Monday, I'll be talking about the why. Oops. The why. Okay, if you have any questions, if you come back on the replay and you've got any questions, please pop it in the comments box and I will go back to answer them. Sorry that you know, the latecomers kind of missed out, but you can go back and watch the replay, and I'll see you all soon. What do I want to leave you with? If you have any questions, like I said, put it in the comment box. And if you've got, as a parent, if you've got any questions about emotional literacy, put that in the comment box and I'll do a Facebook Live to explain it in more depth. Okay, so I hope that you found that really useful, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.